Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Taco Rick channel, and today we're going to be taking this right here into this. Let's get into it. So as many of you know, as a Tacoma owner, the most annoying thing about working on your Tacoma is the fact that the hood is not hydraulic. There's no hydraulic shocks or anything to lift it up. You gotta do it the old-fashioned manual hook way. And personally, as much as I've worked on the Tacoma, I don't know why I haven't done this sooner. Probably because it does cost a little bit of money. But as you guys saw, I'm gonna be adding lights underneath the hood as well. So because I'm going ahead adding the shocks, why not go ahead and add some lights underneath the hood to make working on the truck in the future even easier. So now let's head on over to the table here. Let me show you guys the products we're gonna be using, as well as all the tools that are necessary to do this project. Warning, this does involve drilling into the hood. So I've kind of separated the table into two areas. So we have the lights over here, what we need for the lights, and what we need for the shocks over here. So I am going to be separating this video into two parts. So if you guys have already installed shocks on your Tacoma, or you don't feel like doing them and you just want to install the lights underneath the hood, you can skip to this time mark stamp right here where we start working on the lights. But first thing we're going to be working on is the shocks. So for the shocks, I bought the red line tuning shocks. I'll link them in the description down below. Tool wise, to install these shocks, I'll get into what all's in the kit here in a second, but tool wise, we're going to need a drill. We're going to need a 3/16 inch bit, which I have my little taper bit right here. We're gonna need a rivet gun, some masking tape, a tape measure, a pen or a Sharpie, and a little bit of automotive paint. So let's go ahead and open up the kit for the shocks. And like I mentioned, we'll go through the stuff that we need for the lights later on here. It's pretty simple, as you guys can see, just a wrench, a drill bit, and a screwdriver. But let's open this up. So inside the kit, obviously we get our two red line tuning shocks to lift up the hood. We get the rivets, we get a sticker, we get all four of the connection posts that we're gonna be mounting, and we get some really good instructions. I will grade these as very good. They have nice pictures, nice diagrams, very easy to follow. I've already basically looked through the whole entire instructions, but if you guys don't want to follow along with those, you feel free to follow along with my video, but highly recommend checking out the instructions. This is for 2016 and up, so basically 2016 to 2020 Tacomas. This is a 2020 TRD off-road premium cement grade Tacoma with a lot of mods done to it. Check out all the videos on my channel for any details on all that sort of stuff, but that's what's in the kit, so let's get started with the install. All right, so first steps here, we're gonna be mounting the upper connectors that go on the actual hood itself, and then we'll move on to the actual truck frame. So we need to grab the connectors for the hood. So they look like this. They're the smaller ones, not these ones. So these are the smaller ones right here. These are the bigger ones. We need the smaller ones. So a good thing to do is to grab yourself some of the masking tape that we're gonna be using and go ahead and cut yourself some pre-strips so you have them ready to go, so we can mark where this needs to go. So the first thing we're gonna measure is from down here. So from the very top of our hood latch here up is where we're gonna be measuring from. So I'll get you a better angle here in a second, but we're gonna go 19 inches up, and I'm gonna put a piece of masking tape to indicate where 19 inches is. And then after you go 19 inches up, you're gonna go 2.5 over from the edge of the hood. So to give you guys a better view here, we're measuring from the top of the hood hinge. So right here, put your tape measure up against that. We're going 19 inches up to right here. So you guys can kind of see my tape measure is not exactly against the hood, but 19 inches up is where we need to be for the bottom of that. And it kind of lines up perfectly with that seam right there on the hood itself. That is 19 inches up. And then we're also going 2.5 inches over from the outside of the hood and 2.5 inches up here as well. So, and then when we take our hardware, the nipple or the connector there is going to be facing to the outside of the hood. So right there is where we're going to mount it. We're going to be drilling our holes, riveting this down, and this will be one of the 4 connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out where we're going to do it on the other side, and then we will get to drilling our holes and riveting. All right, so now we're gonna be moving on to drilling the holes for our connectors. So we're gonna grab one of our connectors. These are universal, so it doesn't matter which one you grab, they're both the same. We're gonna be putting it up to the square that we made with our masking tape and holding it there while we use a pen to mark the locations. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna take our drill and we're gonna be drilling the 3/16 inch holes that we need to mount up this bracket. So we're gonna start with the bottom one. What I'm gonna do is start with the bottom hole, and then I'm gonna line it up and make sure that I'm on point for our second hole. So normally you would like to use a center punch to punch where your drill bit's gonna be. I'm just gonna use the tip of the drill bit itself to do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line it up and give a little pressure. That way the drill bit flows right there. There you go. This is one reason why I like to use the step bits, so that way when I actually drill the first 3/16 inch hole, it stops and it doesn't hit or nick the other side of the hood. So that is one of the holes drilled. I'm gonna now line up, make sure I am all set and ready to go for the second hole. That lines up beautifully. And our holes are drilled. So if you guys remember from the beginning of the video, I showed you automotive paint. And here's why. We just drilled raw holes here now. So we have bare metal exposed to the environment, to the elements. So what we want to do is we want to hit this with some automotive paint to prevent rust from spreading down the line. So I'm going to do it a little bit unique. Sometimes people just like to mask this off, hit it all with spray paint. What I'm going to be doing is using the spray paint to make paint and then applying with a paintbrush. So I'm actually gonna repurpose this end cap that came with the kit. It's what was on the end of the tube. And I'm gonna spray my automotive paint here into this. So like so. And there we go. I have a bunch of automotive paint ready to go. And this is undercoating for anyone that was wondering. I'm using an undercoating style versus regular paint. So now I'm gonna be taking this little bit of paint here and this paintbrush and applying it to those holes. Now, while that paint is drying, I'm gonna go ahead and drill these holes and then move on to the bottom ones, and I'm gonna paint as I go. And then we'll install all the rivets here at the end and make everything nice and easy. So gonna go ahead over here, drill those holes, paint them, and then I'll show you guys where we're gonna be mounting the bottom bracket connectors or the nipples or whatever you wanna call it. They're brackets, they're nipples, everyone has different terminology, you know? I'm gonna drill this other side though. All right, so now we're moving on to drilling the holes to mount up our side brackets. So the first thing we need to do is remove this plastic cover piece on the side here. And it's very simple. All we need to do is just push this way or pull on the plastic this way. So pop, pop, this one down here at the very end, pop. It just slide off, and then you can kind of just set it to the side. Don't worry, we're gonna install this back on here in a second. We're basically just moving it out of the way. That way we can get to where we need to measure, mount up the side brackets right here. We're gonna be going in this area in here. So again, here, I'll get you guys a close-up of where we're actually measuring from, but we're gonna go 12.5 inches to the edge of this connector. So in a close-up view right here, we're measuring from the bottom of the bracket, which is right there. There's the bottom of this hinge for the hood. So we're measuring from that, we're measuring 12.5 inches out to where we're gonna mount up the actual bracket here. So as you guys can see right there, 12.5 inches out. I put a piece of masking tape for reference, and you measure from the bottom of the hinge there, out 12.5. And we're gonna repeat the same process for marking the holes, drilling the holes, and then painting, and then we will eventually get to riveting all of these in. Correction, I put this there just as reference. This is not how this is gonna be mounted. It's gonna be mounted like this. Just know that we're mounting it like this, where the nipple points out this way. That's how we're actually mounting it. But it is still 12.5 inches to the edge of the bracket, but we're gonna be drilling from the top side and riveting this way versus that way. Repeating the process on the passenger side. Again, we're just gonna push out on these, pop these out, slide off to the side, and now we can move on to mounting this right here on this side in the same fashion as the other. All right, so now we're gonna move on to riveting the brackets into place. So if you've never used the rivet gun before, it's very, very simple. So This right here is a rivet gun. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight. You can buy them on Amazon. I'll link one down below. But these are the rivets that are included. So you take the silver smaller end, you slide it into the rivet gun like so. So that way you have a rivet. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put it into the bracket like this, put it into the hole, and then we're gonna squeeze repeatedly until we have the rivet in place. I'm gonna get you guys a little close-up shot, and let's do that now. All right, so just a reminder here that the nipple goes towards the outside of the hood. So we're gonna slide it up into the hole like so. And before I go ahead and secure that rivet, I'm gonna go ahead and put the other rivet into the hole above. Well, so far the rivets don't even wanna go into the actual hole of the bracket itself, so that's a problem. All right, so with some gentle persuasion, I have been able to get it up in. So now that you have both your rivets in, what we do is we just squeeze the rivet gun until we hear our snap. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. That might scare you a little bit, but don't worry, what it's doing is just pinching off this end right here. So again, on the top side, we're gonna do the same thing. It looks like it's gonna take a few squeezes here. And the cool part about the rivet gun is you can turn it like this. Seriously? First off, crap design on these parts, well, the painting portion of it. They work fine in this one, in the bottom ones, but the top ones, in both of them, one of them was too tight and wouldn't allow this to go through the hole. So I had to take my drill and drill it out a little bit because the paint that they put on the inside of the hole did not allow the rivet to slide through. Second off, these rivets are cheap as shit and they snapped off, or 2 of them did. So I had to take bolt cutters, cut them off, but the rivets are in place. The rivets are in place, they are holding. Even the ones that snapped off, they did pull in and they did secure the top. Plus, they're on the top brackets, so all the force goes up on the top bracket. No force really pulls down on the top brackets, so there's that. Anyways, gonna rivet up the bottom ones now. So far though, this install's been a bitch, not gonna lie. Alright, with the bracket installed, all the brackets installed, we can now put our plastic guards back on. They just slide on appropriately. They slide on, and the nipple is still able to be accessed to connect our shock here in a second. Alright, I'll show you guys a little bit of a wide shot on this side, but basically all we do is snap these into place. So the big end of this is going to go on top, and the little end is going to go on the bottom. So we just snap this on right here. It should just snap into place from what the instructions say. I'm putting way too much force into this. There we go. Snapped on, locked in, and now this bottom one snaps in down here. There we go. So just snap on to the balls. All right, so this just snaps on here, like so. And then the bottom half down here snaps on right here. So actually I need to remove this hood latch because it's keeping me from connecting it. There we go. All right, complete. And the hood actually is holding its own weight right now. So the hood struts are in place. Now I should be able to just pull this down, latch it, and then unlatch it, and it goes right up. So it works as advertised. That is part 1 of this install complete. Hood struts, they're in. Was that a bitch? Yes. Moving on to lights though. Hopefully the lights will be a little bit easier. So moving on to the hood light install portion. So this one hopefully will go a lot easier. It's very plug and play. We do have a couple holes to drill, but it's pretty much plug and play. We're gonna be using the KC Lighting Adventures kit. This is basically a standard universal hood lighting kit. It comes with 2 of these lights, which should be super bright. We'll get into that here in a second. We're gonna need a 10mm socket, a Phillips screwdriver. We're gonna need a 1/8 inch bit, which is right here on my tapered bit. So we need an 1/8 inch, and possibly a tape measure and a pen to measure out and mark where we wanna mount our lights. Let's open up the kit though. So inside the kit, we get our two LED assemblies right here, already pre-wired with the connectors. We have our power wire, we have our ground wire, we have our switch to control it, we have our mount for the switch right here, and we have a wire loom so that way we can tuck all the wires in when we're done, as well as a lot of zip ties to get the lights where we need them to be. So the first step is one of two. You can either mount the lights or mount your wires. I'm gonna go ahead and start with mounting the wires, and we'll move on from there. So let's go ahead and figure out where we're gonna wire everything. So everything in this kit is very much plug and play. So we have our black wire here with our two end connectors that are gonna go to the actual lights themselves. And we have our black ring here that needs to be connected to a ground source. Very simple. Same thing on the red wire side here. We have our connector that needs to be connected to the battery terminal. We have our fuse. We have our inline switch here that we're gonna be mounting. And then we have the wire that heads over to where the lights are at. So what I'm gonna be doing here first is mounting up our power and mounting up our ground. So to do that, simply remove the red terminal here, cover for the battery, and it reveals this little nut here on the back side. Now this right here is where I already have this wire hooked up, which is to my light bar. So I'm gonna remove that nut, I'm gonna connect this terminal on top of that one, and we'll be good to go on the positive side. All right, that is the red side hooked up. We can put our cover back on over top of these wires. So now for the black wire, we need to connect to our black ground, which is actually back underneath here. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove the plastic yet again here, just like we did in the last one. We're gonna remove that, tuck it out of the way, so that way we can get to our ground screw, which is right here. So right here is our ground screw that we can remove. I'm gonna take my socket wrench here and remove it as so. And now, just like what we did with the red power wire, we're gonna do the same with our ground wire. So we're gonna slide this onto the terminal. As you can see right here is my ground for my light bar. Very common, we're using both of those. So there we go, got that in place. Now I can screw this on, tighten it down, and we are good to go. Make sure you run your wire exactly where you want it to run. In my case, I'm gonna run it out this way. More than likely, we'll run it back to the hood, but we'll go from there. And now we have our connections made. Now, before I leave this area, I'm going to be mounting my switch. So the switch mounts up with this bracket right here. So the switch is gonna go through the big hole. So what you need to do, take your switch, unscrew the black plastic part right here. That'll unscrew and come off the switch itself. It's like a little protective waterproof cap basically. Then there's a little washer nut underneath of that. So you unscrew this little washer nut off of that like so. And then this will slide on top of this. Then you just secure it down with this nut, and then you put your black little plastic rubber cap on top of that. But before we do that, we need to access this hole right here to mount it. So basically you're gonna wanna locate a location inside your engine bay to mount it. So for me, I'm gonna mount it right here, right next to my diode dynamics box. So that way it's in a nice convenient location so that when I open the hood, I just flick the switch right here to turn on my light. I could also mount it up somewhere around in here. So what I'm gonna be doing here is marking and drilling a hole as well as screwing in this bracket. So let's go ahead and get started. It's very similar to what we did with the hood portion, but I'll walk you through it. So right here I have my diode dynamics box for my headlights. I mount this switch though right beside it. So I'm gonna mark where I want the hole to be drilled with my pen. Then I'm gonna get my drill, and we're gonna drill an 8-inch hole. So that is all the bigger this tip is. It's very small, it's a staggered bit. The first bit in it is 1/8". So I'm gonna mark it, press it in a little bit. And there we go. All right, as you saw there, I also painted the bare metal. So now we're gonna use a screwdriver and screw this into place. All right, with that done, we can now mount our switch. All right, so we're gonna mount the switch now. So I've already taken off the stuff as you saw, so I'm gonna slide the switch up in here. And actually I'm gonna take the on and off so that way I can see it on the top side of the switch. Put the on and off on top there, just like so. Now I'm gonna take my nut, I'm gonna tighten this down. It does take a little bit of persuasion to get it right. I'm gonna grab my crescent wrench here and tighten down that nut all the way. I could have also wired this into the actual cab itself, but that would have been a little more effort. Instead, I am just putting it inside the hood because the only time you should ever need this light is when you're inside the hood. All right, with that done, now we can put our little plastic cap on. There we go, we have our switch. So I'm gonna wanna make sure I have that in the off position. That way we can wire everything up. All right, so in that last time lapse, what you were seeing was me kind of setting up the wires to where I want them, as well as putting some of the wires in the wire loom. So I'm gonna be mounting one light over here, one light over here. Now basically I'm going to mount up the light where I need. I'm gonna be drilling another 1/8" hole for both of them and securing them with these screws and nuts. So I'll show you guys as we go, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, sorry for all the time-lapse footage, but it's done. It's done. So, let me show you guys. I ended up having to use more wire loom than what they gave me. I have a bunch of it laying around, so there's a little side note. If you do this, you might want to buy more wire loom because they didn't give you enough to run the whole thing. There's that. But anyways, everything is wired up and done. So, let me show you guys. So, I ended up running the wire. If you guys didn't see, there's just one little screw inside of each one of these lights that holds them up there, nice and secure. And then I ran the wire loom across here behind the back of this little piece on the hood, zip tied it there, zip tied it there, ran it down, and then both of these looms right here, they came together right here, and then I used some electrical tape to electrical tape them together into one loom. Another zip tie right here, ran it down the back side here, zip tied it on the corner here, tucked it on the inside there. It will not pinch. It's good to go right there. And then it comes down around through there and up here. It's where it hooks into the ground nut right there and the power nut right there. And then my switch is tucked in right here behind this plastic. So flip the switch and voila, we have engine bay lighting. That's really good lighting too. But turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on. One thing to point out, because we wired it directly to the battery, the last thing you want to do is forget to turn that off because that will drain your battery. They are LEDs, but that will drain your battery over time. So make sure you always turn that off before you shut your hood. So that is everything though. We have completely installed the hydraulic shocks to open and close the hood. You know, the things that should have been in there from factory, but those are in. We got the lights now, and it's done. The ultimate under the hood project is complete. That was definitely not the easiest thing in the world. I definitely would not give this an easy ranking. The wiring, I made it look really pretty and everything like that. You could have made it look semi-good and got away with it. So I went the extra mile to make sure it looked nice and clean and professional. You don't really have to do that. But anyways, overall, definitely not the easiest project in the world. Definitely not too happy that the rivets didn't line up correctly for the holes. That was kind of a pain in the butt. But other than that, it all came together. Was able to make it work. And the lights look really good. And overall, that's it. But anyways, guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you will miss out on those videos. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Remember, we're on the road to 10K right now. If we hit 10K by the end of the year, I'm buying a sports car, which is going to be dope. So hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications, like the video, leave down the comment section down below, all that good stuff, guys. I'm tired, it's pretty late, so Taco Rick out. Peace.